Welcome to the Inside Scoop Live podcast, where indie authors get personal about their books, their writing, and their passions. I'm your host, Sherry Hoyt. Join me for some lively conversations with debut indie authors and seasoned veterans alike. It's a great place to find your next amazing read or even get inspired. So sit back and enjoy the show and let me know what you think. Hi, everyone. Bonnie Traymore is on the show today to talk about her latest book, The Unforgetting. It's a slow burn psychological thriller about a struggling young mom haunted by memories from a college party gone bad. Before we get started, here's the inside scoop on the author. Bonnie Traymore is the Amazon charts best-selling author of 8 domestic psychological thrillers. Her thrillers feature strong but relatable female protagonists who peel back the layers of suburban American life and give readers a peek inside. The plots explore difficult topics such as jealousy, infidelity, murder, and the impact of psychological disorders, but she also includes bits of romance and humor to lighten the mood from time to time. Bonnie loves Hitchcock movies, psychological thriller novels, coffee, and dark chocolate, not necessarily in that order, and sometimes simultaneously. She has a doctorate in United States history and resides in Honolulu with her family. She's an active member of International Thriller Writers and Mystery Writers of America. You can learn more about Bonnie Traymore and her work at bonnietraymore.com. Well, hi, Bonnie. Welcome to Inside Scoop Live.
Hi, Sherry. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to talking with you about your new book, The Unforgetting. Tell us a little bit about this story and maybe your inspiration for writing it.
Absolutely. So the tagline is 10 years ago, Reagan's friend died in a tragic accident. But what if it wasn't an accident? So that's sort of the premise, a little hook. It's about a woman who's a new mom, and she's looking back to 10 years ago when her college friend, died in an accident at a raging graduation party in the Adirondacks. And for some reason, in her postpartum state, she's got postpartum depression. And these memories are resurfacing from the night, and she starts questioning what happened and her role in it. And then she gets an invitation to join these 6 friends, party buddies from college, for a reunion and sort of remembrance thing up in the cabin. And it sort of takes off from there. So I guess my inspiration was a little bit, I wanted to do sort of a locked room mystery. It's a bit of an ode to Agatha Christie. There's a little Easter egg in there for her,
Yeah.
her movies and books. And I love her books. It's also kind of an exploration of that time of life in college and how things can, be really great, but they can also turn on a dime with all the alcohol and the freedom that you have in college for the first time. So that was basically the inspirations.
I love that. And now the title also, that kind of got me. It's really intriguing. How did you land on that? And what does it signify in relation to the story?
I guess it signifies, it's funny because I went through a bunch of different titles and I wanted, at first I was going to do something about a reunion, but I thought it's not really about the reunion. It's about memory. It's about Reagan trying to kind of remember or unforget what she already knew. And that was how it came to be. And I wanted readers to know when they picked it up that they were going to have a book that was a lot in the head, because obviously it's going to be in the character's head, unreliable narrator type of a story. And I thought that matched a little bit more what the content of the book was.
Yeah, I always find it fascinating, the titles, and there's some kind of story behind it usually.
It's hard to come up with a title that isn't used or, used too much or was too misleading. So I don't know if it's great, but I think it works. I guess the readers will tell me.
Yeah, right. So the prologue sets an eerie, kind of unsettling tone from the start. Why did you choose that specific perspective to open the book?
So interestingly, I wrote that prologue a long time ago, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And sometimes I'll do this. I'll just stick these little vignettes in a file. And then when I get, I'm going to start a new book, I go back and I just looked at it and it kind of was like, oh, I can see a story spinning off of this. It's got the feel of somebody in total abandon. I think you can tell from the vignette that it's a party and this person is either drunk or they're on something. So I just wanted to give the feeling of being inside Reagan's head and what it would feel like to be her at the party, and then goes flash forward to 10 years, later when she's a new mom.
Yeah. I love prologues. For me, they're kind of a bit of a teaser. It makes you just want to jump right into the story. And I guess that's the intention. But yours really kind of set the mood for the whole book.
Well, good. I'm glad it worked. Thank you for the feedback.
Yeah. um, Now, I'm curious about location too. I'm familiar with the Adirondacks. I was actually born in Saratoga Springs, so I am familiar with the area and I love the area. I guess I'm kind of wondering, I know you're from Hawaii. What chose you to pick the Adirondacks and that type of setting for the story?
So yeah, I live in Hawaii. I've been here for decades, but I grew up in the New York City area and I went to college
Mm.
in upstate New York. So for me, it's very nostalgic. I set a lot of my books back east, back in New York area
Oh,
and New Jersey. I did one in the Catskills called Head Case a while back. So this time I'm giving the Adirondacks a little more exposure.
yeah.
I wanted to create a sense of isolation, a sense of beauty, a beautiful setting, but also a dangerous setting. And also a place where, if a storm hit, there could be a problem because you always want to have a storm in a locked room situation.
Right?
I did actually did a lot of research about the hurricanes and what happened in the last couple of hurricanes in that region so that when this hit, it would be realistic that roads would be closed and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. The potential for danger behind such a backdrop of beauty.
Right.
It works, it works. Now, tell us a little bit about your protagonist. She seems complex, and she's vulnerable, but she's determined and she's haunted, as you mentioned, by the past. While also, she's navigating the new motherhood role, as you mentioned as well. What was important to get right about her character for the readers?
So for Reagan, I wanted to get the sense of sort of a balance of vulnerability with sort of like an undercurrent of spunkiness and determination so that by the end of the book she could have a character arc and start to believe in herself more.
Hmm.
Because I think one of the things that is so difficult when you have depression or anxiety or self-doubt and then it just feeds on itself because you can't trust your own perceptions, and that's a very scary situation. And so I wanted her to be able to kind of wrestle with that, but also give her this like inner strength that she could pull herself out of it, if I wanted her to by the end. I won't tell you if she does, but
Yeah.
you'll just have to read the book.
That's right. That's right. I love that layer of her being a new mother because, the hormones, the postpartum, that just adds a whole other level of, oh my gosh, and intensity and in her mind, stress and emotions. And I feel like that's not something you always see in the psychological thriller. At least I haven't read a lot of psychological thrillers where postpartum motherhood blues are involved. And I think that adds a whole new level to it. Yeah.
Well, also, like, when you have a baby, unless you're super lucky, you're exhausted. You start to feel, I mean, at least I did. I mean, it's a while ago, but I felt completely inadequate. It was just like, oh my God, I have to take care of this little person. Like, this is too overwhelming. It was
Yeah.
just so much. And I just wanted to kind of get at that. If you already have self doubt to begin with, you're going to be really reluctant to trust yourself to I remember like, "Oh, am I gonna drop the baby?" Or the first time I cut the nail and, I did clip the baby's finger. Like, all those things, I'm just such a nervous person that I thought, "Oh, that would be a great thing to kinda add in to her." And then she's tired and confused. And then there's another reason, but I don't wanna give that reason,
Right.
why a new mother kinda made sense for her.
Yeah. So you mentioned the reunion, but it's not really a reunion. It's kind of a memorial for Lanie, who died 10 years ago. So they kind of reunite under this guise of healing, but there are hidden motives that quickly surface. So tell me a little bit about what made this the perfect setting for your story.
The idea of these college friends who they were more like party buddies, and
Mm,
I think that does happen in college. It's a weird time of life where you're just thrown into this freedom for the first time and you're 18. A couple months before you lived with your parents, you had a curfew, and then all of a sudden you can do whatever you want.
yeah.
And so it's a weird time, and there's a sense of reinventing yourself and abandon and excitement. But there's also, we've seen lots of movies and books about college things gone bad. We've read real articles about things that happened. So I figured that would be a good backdrop. having these friends come back. Were they really friends or not? And they haven't been in touch for a while. But obviously there's ulterior motives for this reunion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or memorial. It's more like a memorial.
Reunion/memorial. Yeah. The memories, you talked a little bit about Reagan maybe wondering if, as the memories coming back, are these really happening or not? Are they real memories or, just kind of imagined? And I feel like as a reader, you're wondering that same thing. How did you structure the revelations to keep the suspense kind of steadily building and causing that wonder, that doubt? Is this really happening?
There's a couple things. First, I did research on how memory loss happens with the particular substances that she was on so
Mm,
that I could make it more, authentic and the way that they can kind of like drip back in. Also, the sense of, timelines being messed up with your memory if you were on ecstasy and other types of things. But then, as far as revealing it to the reader, I used a then and now. And I also had a dual narrator. So there's Reagan and then there's Ella. So her friend Ella is sometimes giving the reader things that Reagan doesn't know yet. And then also, I had a little then and now section where the reader can go back to then and see what was really happening versus what Reagan's remembering. My only hope there is that it wasn't like too repetitive for people because it might feel a little repetitive because you're going back over it, which is why I wanted to make sure everybody knew, it's a book about memory and that's the title. And it's
yeah.
an unreliable narrator. So they know that going in.
Yeah, yeah. And I like that about the different perspectives too. I mean, people aren't going to have the same memory of the same event. I mean, everyone's going to remember that differently. Yeah. I think it worked. It worked for me.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that because I've done some research on memory and I used to be an academic. There's evidence too that even like eyewitness testimony for trials is very persuasive, but it's not always very accurate because people's memory, it's fragile. It's not like a recording. You don't remember things accurately, and it's kind of a head trip when you think you do, but you actually didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's based on reality. Even if you're not on substances, like you don't remember everything perfectly.
Right. Right. I don't remember why I walk into the room oftentimes.
I never remember where I put my phone.
And it's in your hand. Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah, that's happened.
Talk about some of the techniques you used to create kind of this unease and maintain suspense throughout the story, because I kind of got the feeling that, it was tense, and I love reading books that I don't want to say I love reading books that give me stress, but that that make me tense and kind of I'm on the edge of my seat and I want to keep turning the page and find out what happens next. So, how did you keep that up and keep that going throughout the story?
So I'm a member of International Thriller Writers, and a couple of years ago I took their online thriller writer course, and
Mm,
I learned this from Sarah Buchanan, who's a best-selling author. She did a thing on microtensions, on make sure that you have like little microtensions. You have your big things and your big reveals, but readers are more engaged if something interesting happens, like a little argument or a glance or a look. So those little microtensions are the things that really make the book feel like that the whole time because you can't have constant action. I mean, I guess you could have constant action, but it would be a little exhausting for the reader. So even in the
yeah.
time periods when it's a little slower, if you throw in a snarky comment or even like a married couple, like a little argument, it's a little more interesting. So micro tensions.
That makes sense. Yeah. Now, Reagan's struggles, they're intimate, but they're also unsettling. Were there particular real life experiences or any research you did that helped shape that authenticity of her emotional journey?
I guess in terms of the college life, I mean, without revealing too much about myself, yeah, I mean, I partied it up pretty. It was a different era, so different substances probably, but no, I had to do research on like particularly like the ecstasy stuff because I figured for her age that might be what she did, and I don't have any experience with that, so I had to research that and research how that memory would be, and then I had to research the postpartum and how that would work. So it really wasn't my personal experiences, but more just a general of knowing about this and what it would be like. I mean, I didn't have postpartum depression, but I certainly was terrified that I was not doing everything right as a mom. So I just kind of added that on, if
Right.
you will.
Now, Lanie's death is really the mystery that's at the heart of the story, but Reagan's personal reckoning is just as compelling, I think. Did you focus more on the thriller elements or deep character exploration when you were shaping the story?
So, I've written this is my 8th, and I've got 2 more in development. So, I think
Nice.
my earlier books yeah, it's not bad, but, people like more, but I feel like in my early days, I was much more plot driven. I'm still more plot driven. Say literary fiction is more character driven, but genre fiction and particularly thrillers are more plot driven. And I got a lot of compliments on my twisty plots, but my character development was a little thin. And I agree with those critiques. So I worked really hard in that thriller writer school. Jean Kwok actually did a really good thing on character development. And I learned a lot about how to make my characters a little deeper and how to make their backstories, not boring to learn about, but bring them more to life. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was what I kind of added in, and I think the last couple books have been better, but I think they're still a little bit more plot driven than character driven. I mean, I'm glad that you like the character development, but you have to keep people turning the pages. And I think the only way you can do that is with the plot or the structure of the book unfolding the plot in a way that makes it interesting for the reader.
Yeah, I mean, I do like character driven novels. I do like plot driven novels too. I'm kind of a all over book lover, I guess. Good thing. Goes with my
Well,
job, right?
sometimes I like different ones in different moods. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
I'm in the mood for one or one or the other, right? So
Oh, yeah. I'm totally a mood driven reader. So the relationships are kind of built on these like secrets and betrayals and shifting alliances and trust. And it's intriguing to see people, especially when they knew each other 10 years ago and then they go back, 10 years later and meet again. You're different, but you're carrying these old secrets with you and these old events. And that's kind of still how you see that person. I love that about the going back in time aspect of the novel. What intrigues you the most about writing friendships where no one can be fully trusted? And maybe talk a little bit about the differences of the characters' perspectives from, you know, 10 years ago to the current point in the book.
everybody's going to want to distance themselves from the stupid things that they did. I mean, that's just the way it is. You don't really want to carry that with you. And although I guess with social media, I mean, there's really no getting away from it now. I mean, I tell young people, like, be careful what you put on because, 10 years from now, you might not want that picture of you, whatever you're doing, out when you're looking for or running for office or something, right? So, but I'm old enough that that didn't happen to me. But I think that whole idea of getting back together and we knew each other once, but do we really know each other now? And it's kind of almost trippy, I think, when you meet someone who knew you back then and knew you well, but they don't know how you developed. If that's ever happening, that's happened to me. And you're
Right.
sort of like, "Oh gosh, they're still looking at me like that. And am I still that person? Or I wanted to kind of get at that. And then if you throw in a mysterious death and people have, there might be cover-ups involved. Well, that was pretty much the motivation for that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very strange, all the different lifetimes we go through. As Regan kind of starts questioning not just what happened to Lainey, but also her past actions and guilt and her responsibility on it at the time, kind of take on a new weight. How does her internal struggle shape her arc?
So there's a plot point in the book, and I think this is even in the early part that's available, if you buy it on Amazon or what, so I'm not giving too much away, where she didn't tell the police something that she saw,
Mm,
and at the insistence of Ella. Because Ella, of course, when all this happens, she's doing damage control. She's freaking out. My parents are going to find out about this party. We're going to get sued, blah, blah, blah. So they want to make it seem as innocent as possible. And she doesn't want Reagan to tell anybody what she saw. And so Reagan has the guilt from that. And then later on, she kind of finds out something else that makes her question her role in it. And it kind of takes off from there because she's just not sure what happened. And that's the scary part.
yeah. Yeah. I know. Imagine not remembering it, what happened and something bad happened, but you don't remember your part in it. That's, I guess
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
the,
well, in the book, the storyline that they told the cops was Lainey wandered into the woods, extensively to go to the bathroom because the line was too long, and she stumbled and fell, and nobody knew until the next day. But obviously, that's not what happened, or it would be a pretty boring book.
Right. Yeah. As you were writing, and without giving anything away, were there any kind of twists or revelations that you didn't set out to feature, but kind of just happened as you were writing?
Yes, I mean, I knew what happened to Lanie the whole time. That part I knew, but I didn't quite know what was going to happen when they all got together. So I put them all together and I just wrote through that. And then there's a twist in the epilogue that kind of came to me at the last minute, which I think works really well. And I was really happy that it came to me, but I didn't plan. I mean, I always planned to come back to that issue, but I didn't know how. And then it just sort of wrote itself, it's lovely when that happens.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I love epilogues because I always want to, it's a kind of like, okay, 6 months later, here's how everyone's doing, you know? But yeah, yeah, you did wrap it up nicely. And readers, I mean, it's so hard to do an interview because you just really want to talk about everything. And you can't talk about everything because you want people to buy the book. So,
Exactly. Well, I always try, just so my readers or potential readers would know, I always try to give them a little something in that epilogue to kind of reward them from going to the last page, and it's sometimes I'll get to the end, I'll be like, oh my God, I've got nothing. And usually something will come to me. So thankfully, but I try because I feel like they deserve a reward. They made it to the end of the book. Let's give them a little something fun.
yeah. So, is that your goal with kind of crafting the ending
Yeah, that the
stories?
main mystery wraps up and then there's a little extra, thrown in. But I shouldn't say that because what if it doesn't come next time and then I don't have it?
All
But that's
right.
that's my goal. That's my goal. I always appreciate when someone makes it to the end of my book.
Yeah. Well, you've written multiple psychological thrillers. How do you think your approach to storytelling has evolved over time? And did you try anything new with The Unforgetting?
I wrote my first two books in third person past tense, and then I dropped that. I started
Mm,
writing in first person present tense, and that seems to work better. It's more common now for psychological thrillers, and I had some that were first and third present tense dual narrator, but the
mm,
protagonist was in first person. So that was something that my use of point of view, my use of flashback has developed over time. I don't think there's anything too different, and though I'm sticking to domestic psychological thrillers close to home situations, not big plots
mm.
or high concept. I haven't done anything like that. I'm actually toying with a high concept idea, but I don't know if I'll do it. I don't know if I could pull it off, but it would be kind of fun for a change to try something different. But for now, I've got two psychological thrillers manuscripts that are done and just kind of figuring out what I want to do with those. And I also converted one into a screenplay. I figured why not torment myself further and try something that's even less likely to find success and make my own screenplay. So I don't know what I'm going to do now, but I guess I'll take a breather and think about it.
Okay. Well, that was my next question. What is next for you? You've got another book coming out soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I've got a book coming out in early May called Swipe. It's a psychological thriller about dating app dates gone bad. So that should be fun. And then the other one is out for submission. I'm not really supposed to talk about it yet, but I do have some news. Podium Entertainment, which is a top audiobook publisher, has acquired the rights to The Unforgetting. So if anyone's wondering where is her audiobook, it will be coming with Podium, and they've got the top narrators and they're fantastic. So we're kind of looking around summer for the audiobook of The Unforgetting to come out, and I'm super excited to get started on that.
Oh, good. Oh, how exciting. Yeah, I love audiobooks, so I'll be in line to get a copy for sure. Even though I read it, I mean, it's a different experience listening to it, you know?
It is, isn't it? Especially if you get the right, narrator and somebody who really can bring those characters to life. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, my hat's off to voice actors. I don't know how they do it, but all the multiple voices, I'm lucky I can use the same tone with my everyday voice. You know, what I mean, they're just really
No,
gifted. Yeah.
it's really hard because you have to, even if you can do, say you're doing a female POV character, in the female POV, there's going to be male dialogue and other female dialogue, and you have to change it and the accents. Yeah, it's tough to do well.
Yeah. And oh, okay, I'm supposed to be talking in my Mary voice right now, and then I got to shift to my Stacy voice, or how they keep all those voices straight. It's just an art, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
For sure. So, tell us where readers can connect with you and stay updated on your upcoming books.
My website is easy. It's just my name, Bonnie Traymore. And then my Facebook is also my name, Bonnie Traymore, my page, my author page. Most of my updates go on Facebook. I do more interaction with people on Facebook. I do post to Instagram, and that's at B Traymore. Also, my Amazon page, you can follow me on Amazon, then get information about new releases, and BookBub. I'm on BookBub also.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I'll put all the links in the show note for listeners to be able to jump on your website or buy a book. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. And on my website, there's a free download. So if anyone wants a free download of a short story, sort of novelette length cold case set in Hawaii, they can get that for free off my website.
Oh, nice. Nice. Okay. Thank you. Bonnie, this has been such an insightful conversation, and thank you for taking the time to chat with us about The Unforgetting. I can't wait for readers to grab your story. I thought it was a phenomenal read, and I just want to thank you for being on the show and sharing.
Well, thank you very much. And also, I should mention, Reader Views gave me an award for The Bluff, my release that came out in September. So thank you for that and for giving me that honor. I was very excited to receive that. I look forward to a long relationship with Reader Views.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you. And congratulations again on your award. Yes, that's wonderful. And readers can learn more about The Bluff on your website as well. And I did listen to that audiobook, so I recommend that one as well. I told you I'm hooked on your stuff, so you're not
Well,
getting
there
rid
you
of me
go.
anytime soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Well, Bonnie, you take care and we will talk soon.
Okay. Aloha, Sherry. Aloha, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining me today for my interview with Bonnie Traymore, author of The Unforgetting. You can learn more about Bonnie Traymore and her work at bonnietraymore.com. And be sure to check out our other interviews at InsideScoopLive.com.